All right, so this is storytelling volume 1, 100 plus miles per hour. First, I have to tell a couple of non-relevant stories to get to the good stuff, though. So, I've been in the car since I can remember, probably since I was 6 years old, drawing a little one-dimensional trucks, seeing a little S10 mini truck going up and down the road when I'm sitting on the front porch of mom and dad's house. When I was just a little guy, and I always said I was going to have one of those trucks. From there, I got into wanting high-end European stuff, Jaguars, and other weird cars that I have no desire to own today. And I tell you those stories to get into the next part of this, which is I didn't really start learning how cars work, how they go together, how to work on cars until I was in my 20s. I was a fan of cars. I liked cars. I liked having cars. Didn't really know much about working on them. Some days I just didn't really have a desire to work on them. I didn't do my own oil changes till I got into my 20s. Did stereo stuff, kind of messed around with that when I was 18, 19 years old. And then I got into what led to where we're at today with engine swaps and hot rodding and all that stuff. So, like I said, this is volume 1, times I've been 100 plus miles per hour. I do have to start out by saying that there are a couple of unofficial 100 mile per hour entries into this list, only because the speedometers didn't go past 85 miles per hour. First one was a 1986 Chevrolet Caprice Classic. Had a 305 in it, 700 R4 transmission, full grandma interior, gray velour. It was a gray car. Somebody had repainted a white car. First car that I'd ever actually bought and paid for myself. Paid about $2,900 for it when I was 16, 17 years old. Bought it from a guy at a buy here, pay here place kind of deal. Ran it out on an open highway in the middle of nowhere late at night. Had the speedo past 85, so I don't know how fast I was going. I can only assume that I hit at least 100. Second unofficial entry into this, again, 85 mile per hour speedometer, was a 1985 GMC Sierra Classic. Bought from the same guy that I bought the Caprice from. It was something that I bought probably, I think it's September 2003. I want to say I bought that truck. That was 305 dual exhaust. Should have been a TH3 350 transmission in it. Long wheelbase truck. Funny story about that truck. I thought it had a 350 in it for 2 years. Dad went with me and helped me pick out trucks. I looked at 3. I looked at an extended cab F-150. I looked at a single cab F-150. It was lifted, 4-wheel drive, had a straight 6 in it. The extended cab truck was 2-wheel drive, had a 302 in it. I bought the GMC because my dad was a diehard Chevy guy. I knew if something broke that we could get it fixed. Funny as it sounds, after we get home, he said, man, I thought you were going to buy the Ford. I thought you were going to buy the one that was lifted, because he was also in the 4-wheel drives. He had a 78 K5 Blazer and a 78 Silverado. Both of them were lifted, 35-inch mud tires, small block Chevy setups in both of them. So he was shocked that I didn't buy the 4-wheel drive. I was shocked that he didn't want me to buy the Chevy, to be honest with you. So again, ran it out as far as I could. I can only guess I was going 100, but due to the 85 mile per hour speedo, we'll never know. So here we go with the official entries into times I've been 100 plus miles per hour. So first one is, or before I bought the GMC truck, I had a horrible 1992 Pontiac Grand Am GT. I bought it because it was a sporty little two-door car, and it had GT on it. So GT, knowing Mustang GTs, I thought it was just a fast car. Yeah, it was a piece of junk. Wouldn't stay running for more than about half an hour at a time. Had serious electrical issues with it. We found out it had been wrecked. Was missing half the exhaust. Had a shock missing off of it. It got to a point, the guy that I bought it from was running a little car lot in the middle, in the hood. And basically, I called him whenever the payment was due. So, look, if you want your money, you're going to have to come get it, because the car doesn't run well enough for me to drive to you. And so I honored my commitment. I paid the car off. Ended up buying the GMC before I got the car paid off. That way I could get back and forth to work. But I was on my way home from work one night, and traffic was backed up on I-40. So I got off and went a side highway home late at night, middle of nowhere, against better judgment, because I've been told, hey, we know it's a fast car, or you think it's a fast car. We're paying the insurance on this thing until you get in a wreck or get a ticket, and then you're on your own. Because I think it had 130 miles, I think it had 130, 140 mile per hour speedo in it. Obviously the GT thing was a dead giveaway to my mom. I ran it out anyway, and I backed out of it at about 125, 127 miles per hour, only because it started acting funny. And what I could figure out at that point was it had a vacuum issue somewhere, air conditioner quit working, stereo stopped working, and it just didn't sit right. So I backed out of it, got it home, all was well with it. So that wraps up first time that I've ever done that. So second entry into this list is 2 vehicles later. So I had the 85 GMC, got it paid off, decided I'm going to keep buying cars. And just spoiler alert for people that are watching this channel but haven't known me for very long, or at all for that matter, that will be a common theme through all of the stuff that happens in this channel. I keep buying cars. So the week after I paid that truck off, I went down and I bought a brand new Chevy Cavalier. And I thought I was the coolest thing ever. Brand new car, 400 miles on it, fresh off the lot. It was cool. Or so I thought. My definition of the word cool has definitely changed over the years. But later on, still living at home, mom and dad, but I'm footing the bill for my car payment, my insurance payment, and all that. So I'm 100% on my own if I get in trouble or anything like that. But we're having an issue. Clothes dryer's not working. We're having to go back and forth to the laundromat and take care of some things. So me and my younger sister, Christy, she's 2 years younger than I am. And by this point, I'm 19, so she was 17 at that point. So we roll out to the laundromat. We're coming back at 2 o'clock in the morning, getting everything done at the laundromat. And we're just having a good old time. We're singing along on the radio. Eve 6, Inside Out. Hell of a song. If you've never heard it, look it up. I promise it is good stuff. But I look at her and say, hey, look, I want to run this thing out. I want to see what it'll do. Do you care? No, go ahead, take off. So I knew what a rev limiter was. I knew what a red line was. Car's not going to rev past this point. I didn't know what was going to happen when I hit said red limiter. So we're running through there. Car starts. They start shutting off cylinders at 100. I think it was 105 miles an hour is what I got up to. and 102, 105, something like that. And it just starts shutting cylinders off. I'm bouncing it off the rev limiter, just having a good old time with it. But what really sticks out in that story is just the memory of hanging out with my sister. She's been a big influence in my life. She's my hero, my real life superhero, basically. But yeah, 2004 Chevy Cavalier, first brand new vehicle I bought. Second official entry into the list. So from there, we fast forward roughly a year, I think. 2006. I decide I need a truck because I've already sold the 85 GMC. I'm down to one vehicle. I decide I need to be back in the truck. So I trade the Cavalier in, bought a 2004 Chevrolet Silverado short bed single cab truck. Every hot rider's dream. That's in the trucks. Except it had a V6. I still thought I was cool though because I had a single cab short wheelbase truck. I'm doing burnouts for days in this thing. One wheel burnouts, but I'm still doing burnouts. Ended up burning tires off of it 6 months after I had it. Ended up destroying tires. I think I had that truck for about 2 weeks before we figured out how fast it'd go. 105. That one I think is 105. I think the Cavalier was 102. So Silverado, 105 miles an hour. It shuts off. It starts coasting. And then you let out of it, it picks back up. So what I can tell you is the 99, 06 stuff, unless you've been into the computer, playing with the program, playing with the tunes, that is a pretty consistent number, whether it is a V6, V8. I've owned enough of them. I've had, well, we'll get into that list later. But that was the first time that I've had one of those trucks. I can tell you it's a hell of a truck. That truck took everything I gave it and then some. Burnouts, 100 miles an hour, in the mud, in the ice, hauling car parts, pulling trailers, hauling cars that weighed more than the truck did. I think at one point it pulled a tractor. That should have never happened, but I think it did it. So yeah, that truck, we ended up keeping that truck 4 years, I think. I think that truck stayed around about 4 years. And 2009, we traded that truck in with my wife's truck that she had at the time and put her into a truck that she really liked, which was a 2008 Dodge Ram 1500, single cab, short wheelbase, four-wheel drive truck, had 20-inch wheels, two-tone paint on it. Called that her old man truck. But she really loved that truck. Again, another truck, that's another story for another time. So moving on from the Silverado, next vehicle that we attempted 100 miles an hour in. So there's two of them that come up pretty close to each other. So there's an 89 Chevrolet Astro van. Got close, never pushed it to 100 miles an hour. 85 miles an hour was all I was willing to try in that van. That van, I bought it dirt cheap, never intended to drive it as it sat, really just wanted the drivetrain out of it for a Chevy Malibu I was working on. 4.3 liters, 700 R4 trans, was really looking to just replicate the GMC Typhoon, GMC Cyclone truck back from the early 90s, just with my own twist on it, but I was going to do it in a four-door Chevy Malibu. That project never got off the ground. Ended up selling that Astro van to recoup some funds for another project. So moving on from there, we ended up into a 1997 Saturn SL1. probably second or third cheapest car that I actually paid money for that I drove legally on the streets. And yeah, that car was never going to hit 100 miles an hour. That car did good to hit 55 miles an hour. Still tried it. Never happened, but I still had to try it. So moving on from the Saturn, let's see, trying to remember, because it gets kind of dicey from here. So from here we had 2008 Dodge Ram quad cab truck, four-wheel drive truck. That was actually one that Ashley had gotten. She traded her single cab truck in for that truck when we found out she was about to have our daughter, Shelby, and so was not rocking the single cab with the baby. So we put her in the quad cab truck. Then she realized she needed more room, more protected cargo space than what the truck would provide. So we put her in a Tahoe, and I took the truck. I know the truck ran 100 plus. I don't remember the exact speed on it. That was a thirsty girl though. Had a little 4.7 liter V8 in it. It was four-wheel drive. Honestly, the only time four-wheel drive was ever used was when I pulled down too steep of a driveway and I just couldn't back it up in two-wheel drive. That was really the only time four-wheel drive ever got engaged in that truck. So then, from there, I traded that truck in for a Dodge Challenger with a V6. And not even the cool V6 that had 323 horsepower. This was the first gen Dodge Challenger that had the same 250 horsepower motor in it that the first gen Dodge Charger had, that the Jeep Wranglers had. So it was a 3.5 liter V6, 250 horsepower, 250 foot-pounds of torque. I did cobble together a little cheapy cold air intake for it. Put a cherry bomb exhaust on it. Sounded like a V8 at idle. I definitely could tell it was not a V8 though when you took off running down the road though. I liked the car. Had a good big interior in it. Until I drove my father-in-law's RT. That was a mistake. But by this point, it was one of those things I had to do 100 miles an hour at least once in everything I owned. So unfortunately, I don't remember the exact speed there. I know I did it. From there, I ended up taking the Tahoe that Ashley had. Bought Ashley a crew cab Silverado. Had even more room than what the Tahoe had in it. So I took her Tahoe, did some things with it. Didn't really try to run 100 miles an hour in it because I knew it would. So, because again, 9906 Chevy trucks, Chevy SUVs, pretty well shut off at the same point. So, didn't really need to do it because I knew it would. I'm going to skip over there's a vehicle that comes in next in line. I'm going to skip over it and I'm going to save it for last. But the next vehicle I'm going to tell you about was the orange 2007 Mustang GT. Bought that vehicle beginning of 2014. And it was a blast to drive. 5-speed manual transmission, 3-valve, 4.6 liter V8. Changed the exhaust out on it. It was loud. It was fast. Looked good. Yeah, I made a bad decision getting rid of it, but again, another story, another video actually. But I've got a couple of stories on that one. That car there, it would run and handle. So it had good suspension, had good wheel and tire package on it. I could run 100 miles an hour on back road and still be able to take corners. I was running with Corvettes on the freeway at 115, 120 miles an hour. I got into a fleet of RTs and SRTs and was running, hanging with those guys, just chilling. Man, was that car a blast to drive. Again, dumb mistake. I'll tell you more on that story when we get to that video. I think the next one after that was a 2007 Dodge Ram 2500 with a 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel. I think I ran 100 miles an hour in that one. I'm not sure. So that's all I'm going to say about that truck. We'll save that truck for another video as well. Then after that was a 2014 Chevy Camaro 6-speed manual V6 car. So the V6 in that car was better than the V6 in the Challenger. It was a 323 horsepower car. Sounded good, dual exhaust, 19-inch wheel and tire package on that one. So again, it handled. It did not impress though with the get up and go. I feel like the Charger actually had more takeoff off the line than what the Camaro did, or the Challenger had more takeoff than what the Camaro did. Out of all the vehicles that I've tried to run 100 miles an hour in, I believe from the bottom of my heart that the Camaro actually took the longest to get there. It did it. Never really had a desire to try it after that. I said, that's all I needed to know about the car. From there, there's a scattering of 9906 Chevy stuff. There's a Z71. There's a 03 Silverado in there. Then we get into a 2011, I believe it was, Charger RT. That car was a beast. If the Mustang was a blast to drive, I don't know what word is better than a blast to drive, to be honest with you, because the Charger would whoop that Mustang's ass every day. I promise you. 375 horsepower, automatic transmission, crisp shifting car, independent rear suspension on it. That car was a beast. Oh my gosh. Full leather interior. The only thing missing from that car to make it just fully optioned, you couldn't get anything better than that, was a couple of buttons on the dash that came with the Super Track Pack cars. I think it had something to do with the ride dampening and the magnetic ride control, and 392 rear axle gears. That was the only thing I'm pretty sure was missing from that particular car. Top speed in that car was 127 miles per hour. That car had more balls than I did, because it wanted to keep going and I did not. I said, nope, we're good. So from there, in chronological order, I don't think we tried anything else, because I think we had a horrible S10 Blazer. We had my Mercury Grand Marquis. Didn't really have a desire to try to run 100 in either one of those. My current vehicle stable, the Tahoe, the Silverados, I know what they run. There's really no point in trying to go out and run those 100 miles an hour, because I know they'll do it. I know what they'll run. Really no point in beating the dead horse on that one. So I did actually go out of order in the list for anybody that knows what's going on with these cars. I saved the best for last. It's actually my Great White Buffalo. And it's funny calling it a Great White Buffalo, because the vehicle in question here is actually black. It was a 2011 Dodge Ram RT. Brilliant black crystal pearl coat. I can't remember the exact color name on it. Full leather interior, didn't have sunroof, had heated seats, had navigation, had DVD. This thing was fully loaded, 411 gears in the rear, higher stall torque converter than all the other Rams in the lineup. Still had the same 395 horsepower, 407 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, 407. I don't think that the Hemis got 410 till like 2013 or 14, when they switched over to electronic power steering. Um, Bone stock. That truck. That truck's already top of the list anyway. That truck would beat the Charger. That truck would beat the Mustang. So top three, I would have to say Dodge Ram, Dodge Charger, Ford Mustang. That's my top three vehicles I've ever owned. Um, I had to, so that truck would shut off 105 miles an hour. I was disappointed in that truck at that point because of the top speed, because I've ridden in one. It was a 2014, I think. Crew cab, two-wheel drive. Was not an RT. 323, 355 gears in the rear. I'm not real sure on that one. I know it wasn't 392s, but it went 133 miles an hour. So if you rode in a different version of a vehicle you own that on paper right there is better than yours, then you're gonna try to do some things about that. So I did. Cold air intake. I had the stuff to do the exhaust. Never got around to it. Ended up using that exhaust kit for a different vehicle. And then I got into programming the computer. Got hooked up with a guy that did some remote tunes for me. Set me up with, was going back and forth. Got me hooked up with 91 octane fuel. Shut off cylinder deactivation. Did a few things to the ignition, to some other things. And not only did I get better fuel mileage, I was actually running right at 20 miles per gallon in a truck that I did not drive easily. I probably drove that truck harder than any vehicle that I've ever owned or driven, for that matter. But that thing would do things in that vehicles I've never been a part of. At a stoplight, it would light them up. 55 miles an hour, you're just cruising down the highway, you floor it. It's going to go sideways and it's going to light them up. And yes, it did fix my top speed problem. I ended up going 135 miles an hour in that truck. So from that, and then I ended up getting rid of that truck because there was some valve train issues. Long story, short version of it is, it was taking too long to get the truck fixed. It was under warranty. It wasn't something that I was going to have to pay for. I actually ended up trading that truck in for the orange Mustang, and then starting on a downhill spiral of buying way too many vehicles. Buying vehicles too fast, too soon. And just, I'll tell you a story about that in another video as well, because that'll take some time to learn some life lessons. But the big thing here is, I've been chasing a dream ever since I had that truck. Every vehicle I've owned since has been compared to that truck. I've gotten rid of perfectly running vehicles because of that truck. I don't know if I'll ever get back to the same level of performance that in my head that truck has. That's why I say that truck is my great white buffalo. I'm chasing something I may never ever have again. But I did learn there's a better way to go about getting there. So that's why I'm trying to get close with my single cab LS swap Chevrolet pickup Ron Burgundy. That's why I've got my station wagon. That's why I've got carpool, and we're going through the work we're going with on that one. But at the same time, I've also taken a lesson that I've learned from my dad to heart, and that's, playing with cars is fine. Playing with cars is fun. But make sure you've got one that starts every time you turn the key. Because when it's all said and done, you still got to be able to go to work. And that's something I try to keep in the back of my mind when I take on these projects, is make sure that I keep something running, make sure I have something to drive just in case something runs long. And that's what I'm gonna leave you with today. Is just have fun, enjoy the ride, enjoy the work, but make sure you can still get to work. So I'm gonna wrap this video up at about 30 minutes and let you guys digest all this information, because a lot of this is going to be a recurring theme for the rest of the storytelling line of videos. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and see you guys next time.